You know who I blame?
Who's that?
The doctors.
The doctors. They screwed up.
Did not get that right.
They screwed up.
They need to go back to the State of the Union address cocktail. Because that cocktail, even though he was a little amped up and kind of got angry and yelling, that's better.
That would have been better.
That would have been better than last night.
Because this is really bad. I mean, it's the veil has been lifted, apparently. All of a sudden, everyone found out that Biden has some severe problems here. Like no one knew this before.
All of a sudden.
We're supposed to act like all these people just found this out right now, by the way. And that's one of the biggest lies of the whole thing, because we know that they knew, and they just thought that the doctors were going to keep him drugged up enough to try and hide it once again, but it was too bad this time.
Yeah. All right. So here's the other thing. By the way, I think that CNN and other, MSNBC, they must be listening to this show.
Yeah. Let's get into some of the reactions and then some of the actual clips from the debate. Like, this is the front page of the New York Times today. Biden struggles in debate, alarm Democrats. It's not good. Shaky performance against Trump reinforces doubts. I mean, like I said, the veil has been lifted right now. All of a sudden, it's okay for everyone to talk about this, where last week, if you remember, it was cheap fakes. Deep fakes.
Yeah.
This wasn't real.
Yeah.
When you see him behind the scenes, he's sharp. He is sharp. He is
sharper
focused.
than he's ever been.
The best he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
This guy. But not anymore. Not right now. The Washington Post. Democrats panic over Biden, doubting his future. All these things. Let's see what else we got.
Like CNN. Whether or not he's going to be alive.
Yeah. They have severe doubts about his future. That qualifies.
Yeah.
CNN
Look,
takeaways. Biden disappoints. Trump repeats falsehoods.
I feel bad for the guy and the fact that he's an old man.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is he's the one making, or someone is making the decision for him to run for president. And so he is just as much available for scrutiny as anyone else.
Well, here's the deal.
And it's his fault. It's his fault for running for president.
Libertarians have to answer this question. At this point, can Joe Biden consent to running for president? I don't think he can consent anymore.
Yeah.
He's no longer a consenting adult. Let's see. AP says Biden's debate performance spurs Democratic panic about his ability to lead party against Trump.
Honestly, he needs a conservatorship.
He does, which I'm sure the Libertarian Party is going to try to do again. Grab a few news headlines with that one. And then MSNBC was a little bit nicer. It was a lot more about how awful Trump is, which I think is that their only option is to try and focus on how terrible Trump is. That would be the smartest thing they could do. And Biden just totally bombed. I mean, he totally missed all the opportunities he potentially had last night. The convicted felon, he should have called him a convicted felon like every 2 minutes last night, and he didn't do that. I'm just saying.
I think he only did it once.
Yeah, I think it was one time that he did it. They should have focused more on abortion.
But then Trump clapped right back about his son being a convicted felon and it being worse. And then Trump even said when he leaves office, he could be a convicted felon for all of his crimes that he's committed.
Even in a question about abortion last night, Joe Biden brought up this girl that was raped and murdered by 2 immigrants. He brought it up that she was killed by illegal immigrants in a question about abortion, which is like their number one issue that they have Trump on. And he brings this up. It's nuts. So look at this, like the odds, who will be the Democratic presidential candidate. These are your odds moving right now. You can see as the debate went on, President Biden dropped from 85 down to 60. And then
is that the COVID crash?
Yeah, it is. As you can see, his odds have drastically been moving up. If you start from right here at the bottom, then you see Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris popping up. There's no way it's going to be Kamala Harris. That's not going to happen at all. Let's get into some of the media reactions from last night. We've got, oh, by the way, this is a really funny one. Newsweek just posted this article. They posted it about an hour ago. It says, undecided voters say they now support Joe Biden after the debate.
Yeah, of course.
So I looked at it, and this was a group of about 10 Latino voters that
10?
that spoke Spanish and listened to a translated version of the debate because they had to talk to them in Spanish when they were asking them about who they were voting for. So they did not hear the actual debate. They heard the translated version of it. That's just kind of a pretty funny thing I just saw. But let's listen to some of the media reactions to this last night.
Decided after November of 2022 that he was going to seek the presidency when there were so many people who thought he should have turned it over to a new generation. And this has been, quite frankly, a car accident in slow motion that we've seen over and building and questioning it. And, you know, as has been pointed out, Joe Biden sought this debate at this remarkably early time because he knew he was losing and he needed to change the narrative. And he did change the narrative. He sunk his campaign tonight.
He sunk his campaign tonight.
And that's something coming from Christopher Wallace, who's pretty left-leaning, Fox News, or was for a long time.
Let's see.
Was always the dissenting voice, I would say. And I've kind of liked him.
Yeah, he's been good on some stuff.
Yeah, he's been pretty
good.
And I like having a dissenting voice, someone who's respectful and actually talks about issues. So I think Chris Wallace has been pretty decent.
Let's get Van Jones. He's always about to cry, and let's see if he's about to cry about this as well.
I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can.
Savannah.
But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention.
Different course.
And there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain of what we saw tonight.
It was painful to watch.
Yeah, it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
He said it's time for the Democratic Party to choose a different direction.
Isn't it
if
weird?
He'll let him do it.
How we and well, there's not just us. A lot of people have predicted that this was going to happen. I mean, you could clearly tell that this guy has not been there for at least 2 years.
At least.
If not more. He's clearly has not been there. And I think someone in the group says, you know, they take care of nursing home patients, essentially. And they actually think that he can't even comprehend it all. He has cognitive communication deficit. He can't formulate his thoughts into words. Yeah. I mean,
we've all seen our grandparents, great-grandparents get older, you know, over time. That's the problem Biden has, is everyone has this experience in their life, that they've seen this happen before. It's very easy to recognize. You saw someone go from this great person that was respected and revered and, you know, always made sense and all that, to someone who you're like, okay, yeah. Grandma, you know, that's great. And like we can easily tell that that's what's happening. That's what's happened over the last couple of years.
Let me correct. He can comprehend it. He understands, but he can't communicate.
I got you.
So he can take it in.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that.
But he can't. He can take it, but he can't dish it.
I got you.
Yeah.
Here's Chuck Todd.
You know, one of the things was, would either candidate look like the caricature that the other campaign has been trying to paint of him? And at the end of the day, Joe Biden looks like the caricature that conservative media has been painting.
So it's not a caricature.
And there were no clips tonight, right? This was, you saw it before your eyes. Look, I don't want to just tell you what I think here, Tom. I've been talking to a lot of leaders in the Democratic Party, electeds, coalition leaders. There's a full-on panic about this performance. Not like, oh, this is recoverable. It is more of a, okay, he's got to step aside. There's a lot of that chatter. This is about as bad of a performance in order to that Biden could have delivered if his goal was to try to sort of calm the waters among Democrats. I mean, look, there was.
Okay, there's that. We've got Joy Reid also doing the same song and dance here.
I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate with Obama world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives, with campaign operatives. My phone really never stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic. The
Panic.
People who were texting with me were very concerned.
But Rachel Maddow's like, but are you vaccinated?
What's funny, her reaction actually, I'm glad you brought
Are you
her up.
boosted?
Her reaction is still like, this isn't real. She's still in this full-blown liar thing. Because when Joy reads like the reaction is approaching full-blown panic, Maddow's like, well, that's one person's opinion. You know? Like that's kind of the attitude that she has about
Somewhere
Fletcher.
approaching panic. The people who
Like, I didn't get that at all. Oh, that's interesting that some people feel
I'm
that
scheduled
way.
for my booster next week.
That's all she talks about at all. Like, were these people vaccinated? That's the most important thing. Of course, they
Can't believe they didn't ask about vaccination status.
They talked to Gavin Newsom last night. He says that he's still got to rally around Biden, which is smart for him. He's clearly the person that everyone is talking about would be the guy that's going to replace him. And it's very smart for him to never entertain that notion, because then he could come off as that guy who's kind of waiting in the wings, like ready to go once Biden to get pushed out so he can come in and get power. And so he's going to be the guy who's full supporting. And okay, if I have to, I'll do my American patriotic duty.
I didn't want to do this.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I wanted to support Biden, but this is what happened.
The
and
country
now I'm
needs
have to come
me.
in. Yeah. So it's perfect. And that's just how fake he is. Like, he is not a real person.
Yep.
And I mean, I'll take that. I will die on that hill that he's not actually a real person. But here we go.
You were out there getting a chorus of questions about whether Biden should step down. There is panic that has set in. There is panic that has set in among people who have watched this debate, who are Democrats, people who are strategists, and some even inside Democratic campaigns. Yeah. Do you think it's unfounded?
Well, I think it's unhelpful, and I think it's unnecessary. We've got to go in and got to keep our heads high. And as I say, we've got to have the back of this president. You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that?
How about 100?
It's been a masterclass.
About 100
15.6 million jobs. That's 8 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. The only thing the last 3 Republican presidents have in common is recessions. Democrats deliver. This president has delivered. We need to deliver for him at this moment. With all due respect, the more time we start having these conversations, go down these rabbit holes, it's unhelpful to our democracy, our fate and future of this country, the world. They need us right now to step up, and that's exactly what I intend to do.
Unhelpful to our democracy is such a ridiculous thing to say, because here's the deal. Trump was already winning in the polls before last night. And unless I'm missing something here, he's going to be winning by a lot more the next time they do some polls, because people's minds are going to be made up about whether or not Joe Biden is too old to be the president.
And the answer is yes.
And their argument is that Trump is going to destroy democracy. There won't be any more democracy afterwards. Trump is going to be our last president of the United States.
Well, look at what happened when he won in 2016. There was no democracy for 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Democratic process.
Until they had that election.
Oh, until
they voted back into democracy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's
but
right.
But now they're going to vote back out of democracy until they vote back into democracy.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just how it works. You know, it makes complete and total sense. I think he's going to be the president someday. He's way too fake to not be the president someday.
Yeah,
and
he's charismatic. He's handsome.
He's clearly
he speaks well.
He's got great hair.
He's got great hair.
You know,
people vote for great hair.
Yeah, I know.
And we're saying great, by the way.
Great,
it's also gray.
He has gray.
Great hair.
Mm-hmm. And here's John King, not our John King.
He
it's
looks just like the guy from The Boys. I just see it every time.
Homelander?
Homelander.
Yeah.
That's Homelander for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he has laser beams inside his eyes.
I think he does. I saw something on
Gavin Homelander Newsom.
I saw something about that.
Yeah,
actually. Okay,
here we minutes go. Into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists. It involves elected officials. It involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing. But then at the end, even his closing statement was.
So the big thing to take away here is I didn't show you any clips from Fox News just then. We're 16 minutes into the show right now, and I didn't show you any Fox News clips. These weren't Newsmax clips or own, or whatever it is, whatever
CNN, MSNBC.
Exactly. And this is what they are talking about. And just last week, this was something that you couldn't talk about. It's crazy. It was misinformation. It was cheap fakes. And now we got a full 90 minutes. Trump was right to accept whatever debate terms Biden would give him. And, clearly a lot of people said this was a bad idea. They're going to have the mics turned off. That's a bad thing because Trump likes to, react real time and say stuff. He's not like a...
They kept them both on for a few times.
They allowed it.
Or you could hear the spillover, which was nice. And they both did that, by the way.
They did.
It wasn't just Trump spilling over onto Biden's mic. It was both.
All right, so now let's get into some of the actual debate performance. So right off the bat, we were, by the way, the Fed Haters Club, joingmail.com. We had ourselves a little debate watch party last night where we hang out and watch the debate together. It was a fun time. And from the very beginning of the debate last night, you could tell this was going to be terrible because, like Charlie mentioned earlier, the State of the Union, when Biden came out, at least for like the first half hour of the State of the Union, he was ready to go. He was ready to fight. He was yelling. He was energetic, all that stuff. I mean, still yelling. That was annoying and all that, but he was at least ready to go. He came out and it sounded like he was about to die there on stage. I didn't know if he would actually survive the entire debate. And that's how you knew it was going to get really bad. Just here from the beginning. Here's a couple minutes.
President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs.
Can he breathe?
Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought on the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
I don't know about you, man, but I'm inspired. He sounds like he's running for president of the HOA at the old age community. Like that's, and I don't even think he would win that one, honestly, because
what are the names of those communities typically? Dang it,
I don't know. Like
Del Webb. It's the Del Webb community. There's a bunch of Del Webb. It's 55 and older.
Sunny Village or something like that.
I think most people would know that, Del Webb.
So he even got a couple things wrong in his opening statements, just right there at the end. That he said that they capped the price of insulin at $15. It's $35. He said that they capped the out-of-pocket cost for seniors at $200. It's $2,000. Like, so just in the very opening statements of the debate, he's already messing stuff up and rambling. Like, I mean, I was actually very sad that I was going to have to watch the whole debate at this time.
I
was
thought
ready to pull
dust
out.
might actually come out of his mouth.
I think it was actually. The camera quality wasn't good enough, but I'm pretty sure it was there.
He struggled to talk. Like, it's hard for him to breathe enough to talk.
Yeah. I know.
And the soft side of me feels bad for the guy. Like, I feel bad for him as a person.
Do you?
He's just so old,
Yeah, he is old.
But, the chickens are coming home and the eggs are not there.
No, they spoiled.
The eggs are spoiled, man.
Harry Sisson.
And I got to tell you, these colors don't float.
I forgot to show you this earlier. Harry Sisson says, all these MAGA Republicans who are making fun of President Biden for having a stutter are disgusting. This is after the debate. All these people making fun of President Biden for having a stutter are disgusting. How dare you make fun of a speech impediment? It's a slap in the face of the millions of Americans who either have one or know someone who does. Have some damn respect. My God.
He's never made fun of Trump before.
That is so bad.
Right?
No, definitely not. Okay, I'll show you a couple of the short clips here. I'm sure everyone's heard all the funny moments, but you haven't heard them while watching us hear them at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you want to do that. Here was a really good one.
Healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
What is that?
We finally beat
I'm going to vote for the guy. We beat Medicare finally. This is libertarian out here. Come on. We beat it.
Trump's face. He's looking at him like,
yeah.
Are you able to get this out? I think Trump felt bad for him in a way.
I got to tell you.
Trump looked concerned just then.
I'm still not voting for him, clearly. And he gave me no reasons to vote for him last night. That's the other thing we should mention. There was no substance in this debate at all. It was one guy said everything that he's done was perfect and everything the other guy did was terrible, the worst ever.
And then vice
the other
versa.
guy was the best ever. And that's both of them said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That was it. They were both lying repeatedly throughout the entire thing. There was no philosophical discussions about anything whatsoever about it was just awful as far as an actual debate between two ideologies goes. And so that's one thing, but I'll give it to Trump. I think he actually listened to whoever advised him on what to do during this debate. He kept a straight face most of the time. He kind of kept this face most of the time. He wasn't laughing at Biden. He wasn't making fun of him too much. He did a couple times. So it wasn't like him poking at an old senile man or anything. So he didn't really come off as mean the whole time. He wasn't just interrupting. In that golf conversation, which we'll play here in a minute, Trump was the one who had the presence of mind to say, let's stop acting like children, and let's get along with it. And so I actually think he did a really good job. Now, as far as all the things he said, there's a lot of BS happened in there. Superlatives galore. The best ones, though. Best I've ever seen, I would say. All right, let's get on to another great moment. And this is where Trump actually did have something to say afterwards.
Move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
So that was like the one time that he actually poked fun of Biden.
What's weird is he kind of sounded sincere.
Yeah. They actually did. That didn't.
I don't know what he said at the end of that. I don't think he does either.
You're right. It did sound.
What'd
sincere.
You say? What'd you say? I dropped my crown. What'd you say?
Okay, now we got to get to the golf thing. This is actually my favorite moment of the entire time. I've probably watched it a few times, and I went and recorded the whole conversation so we could listen to it because there's something about the way that Trump says this at the end, and I've said it to Charlie already, that I know you swing. I've seen you swing. I know you swing. And it's that Barstool Sports post saying that like it's you and your buddy at the bar talking about each other's golf game, and it's so perfect. But here's the lead up to that moment.
To follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
Come on. Okay, it's the first time.
But I aced him.
I aced him.
How does one
They've
ace
never seen anybody ace
a
this.
cognitive test?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, I just want the test like, yes, you have a functioning brain. That's it.
I think we've got some medical professionals in here. Typically, from my time in nursing school, I didn't graduate, but typically a cognitive test is when you, or a neuro screen, right? You're going to ask somebody like, what's today's date? Who's the president? What year is it? Where were you born?
Yeah.
Where are you at right now?
Mm-hmm.
When's your birthday? All of those different things. That's it's a neurological, like, cognitive test to see if you are aware of what's going on. Yeah, those aren't hard to ace, I don't think. Now, could have been a different test. I don't know.
No,
I don't know exactly what cognitive test he's talking about.
Yeah.
But typically a neuro screening involves just normal everyday things that most people ace, by the way.
It's making me think there's a scene in Varsity Blues where Billy Bob, of course, he gets another concussion. He's like, how many fingers am I holding up? And he's like, and then the dude comes in. He's like, no, it's got to be true or false. True or false? The man's holding up some fingers. And he's like, true? And they're like, all right, he's good to go. That's the kind of test that we have for the president. Okay, now we get into the golf game. That's the important part. And I think we would all, I actually think it would be funny to see a poll. Maybe we should. Cheers. It's my 6 years, by the way. So I got Heineken 00.
I don't.
Right there. No, he does not. I think we should see a poll on this. I think maybe a nice round of golf might be the best way.
That's the next debate.
It should not even debate. That's the election. That's how we decide.
Whoever wins the golf tournament.
They carry their own bags.
Yeah.
And whoever survives, that's who wins.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well,
so just in case you're wondering, this is a reference, I believe, to the first time Trump was arrested or whatever, brought in. And I think on his form, he put a lower weight, clearly, than what his weight is. But it's such an obscure reference from something that happened like a year ago, which I guess, congrats to Biden for remembering this one random thing.
Yeah. I love what Amanda says, though. The same thing I was thinking. 223 pounds.
223 pounds.
35 pounds.
That's it. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's...
Okay, so at this point in the debate, Biden talking about his handicap and is now challenging Trump to carry his own bag. And I do have to question, do you actually think Biden could carry his own bag? This is the real debate here. Which one of these guys is more likely to be able to carry their own golf bag around the course?
For sure,
It's got to be Trump.
Yeah.
It has to be, hands down. Okay, I got to back it up a little more. We need full context for this conversation.
Happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie that he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to...
I want a whole debate of this. This is what I want. I want the two of them talking about golf.
Well, he says he lied about his handicap, and then he goes 8, and he's like, "Oh yeah."
8. I like Trump's like, yeah.
It's not 6, liar.
I've seen you swing. I know you swing. It's so good.
I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play
This is like
golf.
the biggest
Carry my
grievance.
bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have, you know,
Never. I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn.
Let's not act like children.
I mean, Joe Biden said that Trump said Hitler had good policies. He said that he called Nazis fine people in this, and this is the one that really got Trump going
This is the
here.
biggest lie.
Like he says like he called Nazis fine people, and Trump's like doing this holding a straight face. But he started talking about his golf game.
Yeah.
No, there are some lines
Well,
that do not get crossed.
You cross the bro code, the golf etiquette code. Because golf is an honorable sport where you call out your own mistakes. You don't lie in golf.
No, there's no lying in golf.
If the ball moves, I mean the proper etiquette, you're supposed to penalize yourself. Okay, so if you go lying about handicaps and whether or not, that's a big no in Trump. I mean, especially among presidents.
He knows that.
Especially among presidents and business people, you don't lie about your golf game. You'll be sniffed out and people won't do deals with you.
All right, we'll get on to my second favorite part of the debate. And miraculously, Joe Biden tweeted this out during the debate, which shows he has great cognitive function. He's able to tweet and debate at the same time. And he says, what American president would ever say that people wearing swastikas are fine people? Turns out none of them, I guess.
None of them have said it.
Yeah, or at least not in public that we've ever seen. But
I do like how Trump said that this has been debunked multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said all the news sources, well, all the credible ones anyway. It's all been debunked. We've debunked it so many times on this show. I'm tired of talking about it. Like, and the Jan 6 thing, that's been debunked.
There was a Supreme Court ruling today on some of the Jan 6. Turns out like hundreds of people, they say one of the things they got charged with, which was obstruction of an official proceeding, which carries the maximum of 20 years. I don't remember how many people got charged with it, but they said that it was not proper to charge them with that. So that's going to be going back through the court system. So Biden's face when Trump mentions that this is a lie, a myth, leads me to believe, because you got to remember the whole story. We talked about this week already. Biden said that he got into the election. He wasn't going to run for president. And he said after what happened in Charlottesville and Trump's comments about it, he just had to get into the election, and that's why he decided to run. And what I will say now is what I said last night. I think Biden genuinely thinks that Trump called neo-Nazis fine people, and he was genuinely shocked when Trump said that that was debunked and that that was a myth last night, and he actually believes it. And what you found out...
Several people actually still believe it.
A lot of people. Yeah, several.
Yes.
100,000...
Or millions.
Million, billion. Yeah, believe that that's a real thing that happened. And so what Biden found out last night, if they told him that this was actually a myth, is that his whole presidency is a lie.
Yes.
And he's wasted all this time.
That was what his
that's
face
his
was
face
saying.
says. Yeah. Watch his face.
I never had to do this.
Let's see his face.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy.
The more they know about what he's done, yes, the more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? And this is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. the good things Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you
Look at his face.
Yeah. What?
Look, I think he actually believes it. I think he really does.
see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration.
Look at it. Look at his face.
What?
And so he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country.
That's Woodrow
We shouldn't
Wilson.
be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it. It's debunked all over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that.
This right now, this is what I was talking about. This is the image of Joe Biden realizing that his life is a lie.
Yeah.
And that he didn't need to do this. You know, he could be driving his Corvette into the side of some building right now accidentally because he's an old man.
He could be getting 10% the rest of his life for the big guy.
Oh, he's still getting that.
Living his dream. Yeah, without it being under scrutiny.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. Okay.
And he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused.
Okay. So there's the fine people thing. I was freaking out last night when he actually doubled and tripled down on this. This is an easily debunked myth. We've already talked about it this week. I don't even know. I don't remember if you were here that show. But,
I wasn't.
But Snopes released a fact check talking about the fine people thing. So
wait, they actually fact checked it?
Snopes did after 7 years.
What was the finding?
False.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way.
False.
Is Snopes turning into a reputable organization? What is happening?
So, do you know what the only left-wing publication to cover the fact that Snopes gave that a false rating was?
The New York Times?
Snopes.
Oh.
Yeah. That was it. Not a
Snopes
single
covered Snopes.
Not a single other one. Okay, let's go back to make sure I don't miss anything. So we did get some fact checks from CNN on this debate last night. I would say like 60 to 70% of everything that people said during the debate was a lie last night, or some form of massive exaggeration. Not even a normal exaggeration, like a massive exaggeration last night. But we did get that fact check. Let's see. Actually, let's finish up the clips. So Trump released this clip today, 1.5 minutes. We've already played some of these so far, but let's watch all of them together before we round this out and
Trump's
do the fact
ad?
check. Yeah, Trump put this out.
How much did they pay CNN for the footage?
I don't know. Now, it's got music behind it, and I hate it when people put music behind these things. I'd rather just see the clips, but let's watch it.
Both hours. Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice. The idea that they're going to, I've been proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare for the us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
Oh, that's hard to watch.
Yikes.
Put it all together.
That's rough.
The We Beat Medicare one, so good. I didn't see that last night.
Oh.
So seeing it today, that was so good.
So
that sounded strong at the end of the look. We beat Medicare. What?
CNN did a quick, they did these really quick fact checks of Biden and Trump. Of course, Biden's fact check is 50 seconds long and Trump's is 2 minutes long. And they left out, for instance, CNN left out the fine people on both sides thing from their fact check for Biden, which is interesting for sure. But here's the fact check from CNN. Let me see. Charlie Kirk says, prepare to watch the most brutal CNN fact check of Crooked Joe you'll ever see. And, of course, he didn't post out the Trump fact check. That was posted out by Brian Krasenstein. He posted the most brutal fact check you'll ever see of Donald Trump. And so let's see what that was right fast.
Some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly...
I like how he says that's generally not true. It's wildly not true that there's fewer border crossings than there were under Trump.
Extremely
it's objectively not true at all. But he says it's generally not true.
When Trump was in office, that's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he'd supported, never endorsed him himself. In some of them, he said he's the only.
So that's that one.
And who's the guy fact checking there?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a. Let me see if it ever shows him. I don't have a name on him.
Okay,
can't tell you. Here's some of the Trump fact check.
He said some Democratic states allow people to execute babies after birth, an egregious lie that is illegal in every state. He said everybody, even Democrats, wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. Roe was supported by 2/3 of Americans, even more Democrats. He said every legal scholar wanted Roe overturned, abortion returned to the states. Legal scholars have told me directly this is not true. He said the U.S. currently has the biggest budget deficit ever. No, that happened under Trump in 2020. He said the U.S. currently has a record trade deficit with China. That also happened under Trump in 2018. He said Biden personally gets a lot of money from China. Zero evidence of this. He said there were no terror attacks during his presidency. In fact, there were multiple attacks. He said Iran didn't fund Hamas, Hezbollah, other terror groups under his presidency. Iran, in fact, did. He said Biden wants to quadruple people's taxes. That is pure fiction. He said the U.S. has provided way more aid to Ukraine than Europe had. It's actually the opposite. He said the U.S. has provided about $200 billion in Ukraine aid. It's closer to $110 billion. He said 18 or 19 million people have crossed the border under Biden. That is millions too high. He said many of these migrants are from prisons or mental institutions. His own campaign cannot corroborate this. He said Biden has only created jobs for illegal immigrants. Total nonsense. He said Nancy Pelosi turned down his offer of 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th. There's no evidence she even got such an offer. It was the president, not Pelosi, who had the power to deploy the D.C. Guard. He said Pelosi now acknowledges she turned down the troops. No, her office tells me this claim is still a lie. He said he deployed the National Guard to Minneapolis in 2020. Actually, that was the Democratic governor. He spoke of, quote, ridiculous fraud in the 2020 election. Zero evidence of any widespread fraud. He said NATO was going out of business before he took office.
That was interesting. He said zero evidence of widespread fraud.
He said the U.S. was paying 100% of NATO before he came along. The U.S. made up about 71% of NATO defense spending, not 100. He said he, not Biden, is the one who lowered insulin prices in Medicare. He did it for some seniors, but Biden did it for far more. He said Biden indicted him. Again, no evidence Biden has had a personal role in any of these 4 prosecutions. He said Europe takes no U.S. cars, just not true. He spoke of food prices quadrupling under Biden. That's a wild exaggeration, though they are up. He said Biden made...
That's not exaggeration on some foods.
Yeah, it's definitely not an exaggeration.
And
on
also,
some foods.
he said they've doubled, tripled, quadrupled. He
Yeah.
He didn't say they just quadrupled.
Most of this fact check, from what I can tell, are on Trump's superlatives, exaggerations, hyperbolic statements, things like that. You know, this is the biggest. We paid all of NATO. Well, it wasn't all. It was 71%. Or
I
things
aced
like
the cognitive test.
Yeah, it turns out I got a 99. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that seems to be most of the fact check. But clearly, there are things that are lies from both of these guys.
And Trump, no doubt,
sure.
in true narcissist fashion, the dude exaggerates everything.
Everything. Better than everyone.
Yes.
Exaggerates.
No one's ever seen anything like it.
I've never seen someone exaggerate things like he does. Probably the worst in history. This is the actual worst thing from last night, in my opinion. If you want to blame someone in this whole debacle, if you want to point out who the worst person is when it comes to this, it's got to be Jill Biden. It has to be Joe Biden's wife, because I happen to believe that the spouse is supposed to have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear.
She's using them.
Yeah. Pretty clear to millions of people that Joe Biden is an old, senile man that's having a hard time getting around and talking. Sometimes poops his pants. I don't know. There's no way of knowing for sure. And she knows this. She probably knows it way more than anyone else. But she's pushing him. She's still pushing him, still encouraging him, and congratulated him afterwards. This is another thing where they're all supposed to act like this went great. Mm-hmm. Like everyone's freaking out. Everyone's panicking. They're aggressively panicking, according to all the media. And then you see still like this political situation playing out here where there's people in the crowd clapping, congratulating, and they all know that they were hiding their eyes and plugging their ears during the debate. And then they all just decided to be fake for a little bit. And Jill Biden, if she was a good wife, if she was a good person, then she would shut this down immediately. And she's not doing it. Here's 17 seconds.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the... And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie!
All right. He did such a good job. He answered every question and he knew all the facts. Joe Biden, as you can tell by the look on his face, he has no clue what these people are talking about. He's not even aware that there was just a debate, I don't think. He has no idea what his performance was like. He's just not there anymore. And
he's not even there on stage with her.
No, he's not. You can see the empty look in his eyes all the time where he's trying to figure out, what are these people doing?
Yeah.
At all. And when he woke up today, I hope he found out two things. One, I hope he found out that the fine people thing was a myth. And then as usual, every single day, he finds out that he's the president. And so he found out those two things today. And I'm sure it's been just a shocking day for him.
I just imagine a team of people like getting him ready for bed and then placing him in bed.
Yeah.
And they're all like, oh, you did so good. Yeah.
Looks like a really expensive nursing home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, someone's going to write a book someday about how terrible this whole thing was. But
all right, so who wins the presidency, Nate?
Who wins?
After this first debate, who's going to win the presidency? Who's going to win in 2024? Come November. It's now June, the end of June, almost July. We've got July, August, September, October. We got 4 more months, 4 full months before elections on the 5th of November. V for Vendetta.
If Biden remains on the ticket, then I guess I'll say Trump will win.
What if Biden does not get the nomination from the Democratic National Convention?
If they were to put up Gavin Newsom, I think Gavin Newsom would win.
Over Trump?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because you get Gavin
You don't
Newsom,
think it's going to piss a lot of Democrats off or independents who usually vote Democrat?
No, Gavin Newsom automatically will get every single person who was going to vote for Joe Biden anyway. And the election's already close. And if they moved to Gavin Newsom, he would get every single one of those votes, plus the people who were teetering on the edge, not going to vote for Biden because they think he's too old.
Now, their convention is in August, so that gives Gavin Newsom basically September and October to try to win over the people on the fence. Can that be accomplished?
Yeah, I think it can be accomplished. I definitely do. There's also a lot of other things you got to remember. Like, according to the Trump camp, the last election was stolen. And there's been no changes made to prevent that from happening this time. So why would you think it's going to be any
in
different?
Some states, I think there have been.
There's been some, sure.
Georgia.
I guess we're
There's
going to
been
have
some changes in Georgia.
less mail-in ballots this time, I guess, than the previous time. There's also a lot of time for some crazy stuff to happen. Trump gets sentenced on July 11th. For all we know, they're going to put him in prison that day. I think he loses at that point. I know that we'll both vote for him at that point.
He wins.
No, I think he loses.
think
There's
he
too
goes
many
to-
normies out there that are not going to vote for someone who's in prison.
I don't know.
So what I'm saying is it's not like 100% lock because there's a lot of stuff that can happen. October surprises, the Supreme Court could still do stuff to rile people up. Women, I'm telling you, you don't get in between women and their ability to murder a child. Okay?
Yeah.
They really want to do that. They want the power to do it.
And they
Or like
want to
most
support-
women,
They want to support other women who want to do that.
like most women, maybe it's not that they want to do that, but they want to think that they have the ability to do it if they, it's like when they ask you if they could do something and you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. What they want to hear is, yeah, sure, do whatever you want. That's fine. They want to know you're, sure, you can do that. It's not really about doing the thing.
Yeah.
It's about making sure they can. So they want to make sure they can murder a child. So there's a lot of big stuff that can still happen here.
Someone in the live group is saying that people in Nevada elected a known dead man in 2018.
Yeah, he died after getting put on the ballot, right? And he still won. Wasn't that the case?
I mean, here's the thing: he goes to
Yeah.
prison. I think.
Yeah, but honestly, I'd rather vote for a dead guy.
My thing is, I think a lot of people would vote for him just to see how it would play. I agree with Michael there. They might just vote for him just to see how it would play out. To be like, okay, what happens if a guy in prison actually wins the presidency?
There's also still a flip side that maybe the Democratic Party is fine with Trump winning. Maybe they're actually fine with that because you saw how the left reacted after he won the first time. Like Trump being in office galvanized the crazy lefties more so than we've seen in a long time and created a big reactionary movement from that side of the aisle. And so they might be willing to give up 4 years of Trump if they think it'll help them get Gavin Newsom for 8 years afterwards. Like they might be okay with giving that up because it'll actually give them more power in the long run. There's a lot of stuff that can happen here. So yeah, right now, best odds, Trump versus Biden. Trump's got the best odds to win, especially after what happened last night. The whole country saw it. I'm sure the ratings were pretty high, and it was clearly evident from the beginning that Biden's not all there. The sad part about this is that we got no conversation about policies, philosophy when it comes to government or politics whatsoever. We got nothing like that. The only thing anyone's going to remember from the debate is how terrible Biden looked and sounded on stage. And as a country, what we're talking about is how terrible Biden looked on stage, whether or not he's better than Trump, who's going to destroy democracy. We're not talking about the debt or taxation in general or the continuation of all the foreign wars and all that. We're talking about whether or not this guy's too old or whether or not this guy is a fascist or something like that. And that's sad. By the way, Biden still says he's going to do the second debate, which is in September. So he's not backing down from that. I personally highly recommend to him that he does back down from that. He finds a way to get out of that debate because that's not going to be good for him at all. He says he's not dropping out, or probably not him, because he'd be like, dropped out of what? He had no idea what he'd be dropping out of. His campaign, his administration says Biden's not dropping out and that he's still going to do the second debate. Everything's moving forward. And from here on out, clearly the focus is not going to be on Joe Biden whatsoever. They're going to try and make sure all the focus is on Donald Trump. That's the plan. So there you go. There's the show. Let's get out.
That was it.
Yeah.
What a great White Pill Friday.
Yeah. I feel inspired.
All right, y'all. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it around with a friend, a family member, a foe. Share it